as to what we've been covering. Here we go. All right. So this is essentially the architecture. I think it's very good to like have it in your mind, if not on a sheet of paper. You can see it does not have to be anything pretty at all. The other
You
thing
muted
is,
yourself, Jeff.
hold on. I've been muted the whole time.
Not the whole time.
Oh, not the whole time.
Part of the time.
All right. I was saying some really good stuff there. Um, so, oh man. Okay, let's share my screen. Okay, so yeah, so I'm not quite sure what you heard, but basically said we'll be doing Terraform today. I'll give you time to catch up. Just move through the content as a way to understand it, not to rush through the labs if you're feeling behind. Um, so, for me, like having the uh, sketching out this stuff is very valuable. This is something like all like tech teams basically do as a way to self-understand. So for you to do it, I think is great. It's a way of like simplifying it in your mind. It does not have to be anything pretty. You can see I drew like 4 boxes on a screen. Okay, maybe 5. Um, but like they communicate. They like keep this stuff in my head a little bit better, and it basically has all the information that we kind of need. Right, we have 2 different containers, right? A Flask backend container, a Streamlit frontend container. You can see the Streamlit frontend container makes requests to the Flask backend container, and then the Flask backend container makes requests to your RDS instance. And we also get that okay, well this is it. It's 2 separate machines, right? These 2 things both live on the same EC2 instance, and then they make a request to our DB instance, and you can see it even says Amazon. Like I didn't write this out. This comes with this Miro thing. It automatically says for you Amazon EC2 DB instance. So this thing technically is just another EC2 computer. All right, that has Postgres already installed on it and some kind of like permissions and sets up some things that are just more typical of working with a DB instance than an EC2 instance. Right here, it gives us access to SSH, port 22. Here, it's more like access to 5432, where Postgres is running. The Postgres client is already installed. Right, that's why we can PSQL onto it, things like that. And then we have these security groups. This is probably like the most important or the most confusing component of working with AWS, but is exceptionally important. And we're going to go deeper into it over the next, it's going to come up again later this week. It will come up again after that. So it's good just to understand it at least at this level before we get even further into the weeds. So for the DB instance, we make it publicly accessible on port 5432 for now, just so our laptop can connect to it and we can confirm that works. And then for the EC2 instance, right, we make sure we have SSH access, and we also make sure we have access to port 80 because that's how people make requests to Streamlit, right? So it's like for this, the port 22, well, that's protected to a degree because people will need our PEM file, right? And then for port 80, well, this isn't protected at all, but that's okay. We want people to be able to access our website. And then for this guy, this is actually fairly insecure. Like I don't think most companies would not just allow public access on port 5432 to anyone. Even though we have a password, probably not secure enough. Like there are better ways you can imagine connecting to it. Like we could, so eventually after this thing got into production, you probably would just you might only allow access to the database from an EC2 instance. Like that's an example. And at least there you have a PEM file, right? So we could just shut down, remember this has like the 0000 to allow anyone, but then we also have this tag here of the EC2 security group. So what this is doing is saying, hey, allow access not only to the public, but also to anyone, any AWS resources that are attached to this EC2 security group role. Okay, and that is this guy. And then if you look at Terraform, basically you just want to like reinforce that. So you can see that here, right? We have the AWS instance. We're able to like, you can think of these security groups kind of like roles. Role is one word, but like tags, right? Like we can tag as many of these as we want. So if we wanted to, like we could just have had a security group called like RDS access, right? And then we tag, and we say, hey, anyone that has RDS access, we're gonna give them access, and then we'll tag this guy, give this guy another security group that says RDS access, right? And that kind of gives you this key card to access the RDS instance. But in this case, we just say, hey, I'll give you, if you have this EC2 access, you're good. So that's what we do here, right? We attach the AWS instance, has the EC2 access, and then also later on, we'll just skip to the RDS guy for a second. You can see the RDS access. This is the key part. I put the word remove for me for the lab to like make it a little hard on you, but that's the only reason why that's there. But that's what this is saying. It's saying, hey, here's a security group. We're going to give access to anyone on port 5432, so our laptop can go in here. And then also for AWS resources, any of those resources that are attached to this security group, any one of these security groups also get access to the machine, all right, to our database instance. And what, so you can kind of follow the chain. It's like, here's my database. We say that this database gets secure, is associated with this security group, Postgres access, and then here are the rules, right? Remember, you can think of a security group kind of like a firewall. Here are the rules to the firewall, right? Anyone can access it, any laptop can access it, and any AWS resource that has this tag on it, all right? You can see we set up some very basic kind of stuff. By the way, just so you know, like, because I do these labs and like I make them, like I just put in like silly password, the default passwords and things like that, just to show you like how insecure this is. One time I had like a database up for like a week, and someone I just had some sample data for a lab, and someone deleted all the data and then put like a bounty on it, like they tried to whatever, like get me to pay them $1,000. I'm like, joke's on you. The data's a joke. But yeah, just to show you like that will happen, right? They just write like a script to like scan every database they can and put in this, 1,000 passwords that are whatever, and then try to get some money off of you. Okay, so it certainly happens. Okay, so what do we have? We covered kind of like, we have this EC2 instance, the security groups. I hope you understand this. Does this make sense to you all? Right, kind of how this works? Yeah. All right. And then you can see the other things. It's like the depend on, right? This is key. The EC2, why do we want this EC2 instance depending on Postgres? Because we want to be able to connect to Postgres. In order to do that, we need to know the IP address, right? The public domain name of my Postgres instance. And so I need to wait until that boots up to get that thing, all right? Namely, what's going to happen is this thing's going to get run, right? Like that's really where we're going to need the database's domain name, all right, to be able to connect. So remember what this is. This user data is kind of like the init script, initialization script. It's just bash, right? We've seen in other labs, you're able to write something like, I always forget how to do it if it goes the other way. Right, and then we have this EOF here, and then it's like, sudo docker, install Docker, install Postgres, right? It's like all that initial setup has to occur here. Now, because this thing is going to grow super long, what we do, and for other reasons as well, what we do instead is we use this template file, okay? And do template file, init script is just what I called it, init script, and then rendered actually like spits out the text of it. Okay. The path.module, that's just the root path of Terraform, right? So it's where this is just saying where this thing lives. So it's in this path.module. We get to access that /ec2 setup.tpl. This extension can be anything. It doesn't matter. So we could have used actually like this .sh file if we wanted to. We would just have to, like, the main thing we would probably change is the variables are declared here instead of, you can see I'm declaring them right here, okay? But we could, other than that, I think everything basically is fine, you know? So we could have used the same file if we wanted to. All right, so let's take a look. What else we got? So we have this web app, we declare the variables, right? And remember, these variables are basically going to be, it's like Jinja, right? It's kind of like anything else. Like you pass through these variable names, and they're going to be over here. And every time I say $, you need the $, curly brace. You can't just use $, with Terraform for this. And yeah, this will backend image will come from over here. Backend image. All right. And you can look at this. Remember, like you can kind of like look at this if you go to the Terraform console and take a look at, you know, what this actually renders out if you want to see it. You can just call data.template file init script rendered and see it. So I already called Terraform apply on this, and yeah, so and then I SSH'd into it. So I just didn't want this thing takes a while to boot up, right? It can take like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes or something. So I wanted to do this before class. So I gave myself, you know, we have this output that says SSH into the machine like this, right? And I ran that. And I purposely put a bug in my code. So it's like we have to kind of see where we got stuck, right? When we have this bug. So, you know, we can see that we're able to SSH in. That's good. We're able to see that we have you know, probably the database is also hooked up because you can see this. That's nice. So let's start to see where we get stuck. If we look at this file, right, we kind of want to start here and just see like how far did we get? You know, that's what I want to do. It's like see like where did the bug occur? So how far did we actually get? So if you type like PSQL, okay, that's actually fine, right? It says connection to server is not running on 5432. Why is that error occurring? It's because it thinks it's looking on the current EC2 machine, but we know that we don't have Postgres running on our EC2 machine. We're going to need to specify the host. So right now, all we have installed is PSQL, and that seems to be working fine. So that's good. So it means that we got past here. The next thing we have is like, do we have Docker running? So how do we check that? So if you just do Docker PS, right, it says permission denied while trying to connect to Docker daemon socket. That's because we installed it with sudo, right? So you have to do sudo Docker PS. Okay, and that's a good sign, right? Because this means, yes, we've successfully installed it, and then 2, you've started it up, right? Because we wouldn't be able to call Docker PS without that. And you can see that's what I'm doing here. It's basically, if this doesn't work, try this again and wait 5 seconds. If it doesn't work, try it again, you know. So then we get to the next line. This is probably where it's going to break. So we can start to just look at this, right? Sudo docker image ls. Oh, that worked. And I'm surprised about that. I think it's because I installed it separately. So that we see that image, but we do not see this one, obviously. All right, cool. So what we could do at this point is we could try to, and I'm going to delete this. We could try to kind of like, what I would do is just copy and paste the code that's breaking and directly put it in the console, right? But it's just like Python, right? Just like as if we were doing like a Python console. So just copy and paste it and see if this works. And it worked way faster than I expected. Let me see this again. Bummer. Oh, you know what? Wait, let's see this. This is kind of interesting. So it says while not. If I do echo front end image, what's actually here? Yeah, that doesn't even make sense, right? Because it's. I expect this. I expect that we're not going to have any of our variables declared, right? I don't know what this $ here is about. I don't think I need that. That might be an issue. Let's try this one more time. Right, because you would expect to get stuck in the while loop, or at least for it to run once. Right, sudo docker image ls. Okay, image ls. So this makes more sense. So I think it was just the fact that I did not have the. All I changed. I don't know, while not. Oh, I have docker image ls twice. Yeah, this works better. So while it's so weird that it's changing it when I press the up arrow. Anyway, so what is this doing? So I just copied this. While not sudo docker image ls, look for the front end image, and it's basically saying docker image ls requires at least one argument, right? It's because, and why is that occurring? It's occurring because we have this. It's attempting to pull, doing this line right here, docker pull front end image, but front end image isn't any variable right now, right? I have to do the export. So you can kind of see that, like, we're defining this. We're just defining these variables here, but that's not the same thing as setting, right, the variable in my environment on the EC2. All it's doing is just, it's basically saying where I see backend image, I'm going to run this, but now we're doing this at a later period of time. And so this variable, if I copy and paste it, this variable is blank. So what should I do? I should just export it. Export front end image. Let's just go back here, make sure we get it exactly. That looks pretty good. So export the front image as that, and let's just make sure it works. All right. Did I do it right? Wrong?
Oh, they're fine.
Oh, thank you. Okay, cool. So that's set, right? And now let's try the lines again. I expect it to still break. Let's see if we can. So now we're doing the same line again. List the images. Oh, I can't even make this touching. I don't think I need to. So list the images. And if you don't see this front end image listed, then pull it. All right, and I'd expect it not to see it still. Let's see if that occurs. Let's maybe take out the $. I don't think I need to. It could be the fact that this quotation marks here. Let's try that. I don't think so. Look at that. It's still saying attempting to pull, sudo docker pull, $ front end image. If I do echo $ square bracket front end image, that's listing. And then we are getting this error message. Well, docker image ls requires at least. Why does docker image ls require one argument? At most one argument. Oh, I have that, right? Sudo docker image ls. Okay, that's kind of working. All right, so I did have to put that space in between here. All right, so this is now downloading. It is pulling the front end image. That part is successful. We'll see if we get this other bug that's kind of sneaky. So all I did, right, is I saw that, hey, we're getting we're not downloading all the images. Why is that? So we're gonna just do echo front end image and then copy and paste this. And my mistake was trying to fix this by doing this, and but that was just a small bug. We should run into another one, I think. Okay, so now it downloaded it. And look at this. Now it's doing it again. So it downloaded Scraper front end latest, and now it's attempting to pull it again. And now it's attempting to pull it again. And now it's attempting to pull it again. Okay? So we're stuck in our while loop. All right? Let's press Control C. So this is kind of interesting. Like, why are we stuck in this while loop? So we can try to debug it. Sudo docker image ls. And now you can see both of them, right? But what does, where it says front end, we have JK21401 scraper front end image. But what is this front end image? It's actually not this exactly. It's JK2141 scraper front end image latest. Okay? Now what the lab intends you to do is actually, the reason why this kind of occurs, and we could do an easy fix, which is to just change this here, and then we would have a match, right, if we just don't include the tag at the end. But I did. All right? So I could just delete that and reapply it, but I'll show you another way that we could fix this. And that is, well, if you think about it, what we're doing is we're listing this, but we're not getting the right format out of it. So instead, you can change the command. And I just asked ChatGPT, how do I kind of spit out both the repository and the tag when listing the images? And apparently this is how you do that. All right. So the point is not to remember this. The point is how to debug this. Right. So it's like we're able to identify the issue, which is that there's a mismatch here. And then we, ask the internet for ways to solve it. But the key part is just identifying the problem. So, okay. So apparently this is what works. So we can do the Docker image ls normally, and then this takes a format flag. And here we specify the format. And we say we want repository, so it's that dot repository, so that's this part, colon, the tag. Okay? Which the tag is the latest. And now that matches, right? If I spit it out this way, and then I search for, remember, I'm going to be grepping for exactly that format. Scraper front end image latest, right? That should work. So if we change this to this, right? That should work. And let's see that we did not get stuck in our while loop that time around. It just saw it, and then, it says while not this, while not a match, but this time there was a match because we actually have this down here. Okay? So the key thing is, again, it's not really like this particular bug, but just like the debugging process in general, that we SSH into the machine, we see we check the steps to see where we're getting stuck. Then we can just, we don't expect this variable to be defined in our environment, so we just need to export it, right? And I just got it from, or any of these variables really. So we just export it, and then we literally copy and paste. And then from copying and pasting it, we can see, oh wait, why are we stuck in this while loop? Because we must not be getting a match here, right, with this format. So then we look for ways to solve it. So other ways I looked to solve it was can I just do a fuzzy match, right? Like not an exact match. What if we match just the beginning of the word? So I think that's what this caret thing was about, was, just matching. This caret normally means just if the first characters of the word match, then you're good, and that would fix it because, if we're looking for this whole thing colon latus, and we'd get just the first characters match, right, that also would be a fix. But the point is, like, spotting the bug, okay? And once we copied and pasted it in here, we saw we were stuck in the while loop, and then we could figure out why, right, we're not getting the match, and then brainstorm ways to fix it. All right? Cool. Other questions about Terraform, like, in general? A good thing to do is explain, like, why use Terraform, what is like, write that out, because if you want to get any credit for having knowledge about it, those are the first questions. And if you don't sound like, like you have a good understanding of it, unfortunately, right, it's going to be hard for them to believe you. So I would spend some time writing that out. We can we'll probably just give you more of those kinds of questions as the course goes along.